My father imprisoned a friend of his in this room for 3 years. When he was released, he could never again bear to look at the sun or even a daffodil.
How cruel.
Shh. Spoilers ahead.
Hi everybody and welcome to Cinemattraction. I'm Heat Guy Jay and beside me is Cold to the Bone John. How are you doing?
I'm very well. You've heard of double helix. What about triple helix? In this episode we'll be discussing an original and a remake. Park Chan-wook's Oldboy from 2003 and Spike Lee's 2013 remake. Apologies ahead of time for any incorrect name pronunciations. So what have you been watching?
What have I been watching? Last night I watched The Spine of the Night.
Yes. What do you think?
I really enjoyed
Spine
it.
of the Night.
You loaned it to me and I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
Rotoscoping.
Yes.
I wasn't familiar with the term, but I knew what it was because of the old 78 Lord of the Rings.
Ralph Bakshi.
Yes, the scary ring wraiths.
Oh.
And that. Yeah, and the orcs, they were done in rotoscope, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a adult fantasy horror, I suppose. Really dug that. Of course, the 2nd of February was Groundhog Day, so I revisited the classic Bill Murray comedy.
Yeah.
Gotta love that.
Yeah. Do you watch it every Groundhog Day?
Mostly, yeah, mostly, and because I haven't felt very well with a cold this week,
you've been poorly.
I've watched 2 of my comfort movies, which are the Lego movies.
Okay.
So my wife prescribed them for me.
How do you feel about the Lego movies?
I love them,
Okay.
especially the second one. I don't know what it is about the second one, but I just absolutely love it, and it's like chicken soup for the soul.
We were just discussing before we started recording, and actually during the recording, during the initial stages, future episodes. Are we going to be doing an episode on the Lego movies one day?
I would love to.
Okay.
I would love to. I'll rewatch them any day of the week. What have you been watching?
Not much, because I've been working my backside off.
But you have watched an old Japanese movie?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, I signed up to the Radiance Films subscription, and Radiance Films so there was Arrow Academy.
Right.
Yeah. So the Arrow Video, for any physical media weirdos, sort of got bought out in like 2020 by like the Huck Group, who own Zavi, and as a consequence they did some cost cutting and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
They lost one of the arms of Arrow Video called Arrow Academy, which is kind of their more prestige movies, because Arrow typically do the kind of cult stuff and the weird stuff. And the guy that ran that left because You Killed My Baby.
Right.
Set up a label called Radiance Films and has been knocking it out of the park with his releases so far.
Oh, fantastic.
This week I've seen the first 2 of those releases. I think I've got Miami Blues with Alec Baldwin coming up.
Oh, yes, I've seen that, yeah.
I'm really
early
looking
90s film, isn't it?
Early 90s. I'm really looking, and Welcome to the Doll's House I think they're doing as well, which is Todd Solondz's movie. I watched Big Time Gambling Boss, and I've watched The Working Class Goes to Heaven, and both are absolutely fantastic.
Right.
Really Criterion level releases, considering it's like a one-man band.
Yeah.
Big Time Gambling Boss is it's not the most energetic, kind of stirring kind of Yakuza movie, but it's really well acted, really compelling, and it's brilliant.
Can I just ask one question?
What's that?
Why is it with you've got Arrow and all these other little boutique type,
labels?
Why have they not brought out Young Einstein on Blu-ray yet? Why is that not a thing?
The Yahoo Serious comedy?
The Yahoo Serious comedy. I love that film. I used to watch that all the time when I was a kid.
It's hilarious. I watched that in Australia once.
Why is that not out?
If you're listening, Arrow Video or
Guy from what's the company called?
Well, it's Radiance. I think
Radiance Guy.
I think this might be a little bit below Radiance, but I could see it being a Severin release. They released Drop Dead Fred.
Right. Yeah. It could even be an Arrow. Arrow would do it.
A Shout Factory or something like that.
Shout Factory, yeah.
Arrow, maybe not. I don't think this is really in their wheelhouse, but a boutique release of you don't really need that. Because it's going to come in a beautiful slipcase. It's going to come with
we knew
a beautiful transfer with like loads of supplementary. You need a top-end release of that film.
Yes, I
Okay.
love that film.
Oldboy is a 2003 twisting noir thriller directed and co-written by Park Chan-wook, based on the Japanese manga of the same name. It is 1988. And salaryman Oh De-soo is arrested, again I apologise for any incorrect name pronunciations in this, is arrested for public drunkenness, missing out on his daughter's 4th birthday. Oh De-soo is kidnapped upon release, waking up in a locked hotel room. Food is served through a slot in the door by his captors. Oh De-soo learns that his wife has been killed and he's been framed by these captors. Several years pass and Oh De-soo is still locked inside the same room, growing ever more twisted and warped in his solitude. When he attempts suicide, his captors step in and resuscitate him, and he resumes his captive torment. He cannot literally escape. It is after this that Oh De-soo actually begins to start to learn boxing, which is going to be quite useful. Now it's 2003. 15 years later, Oh De-soo is sedated, hypnotised and released, waking up inside of a suitcase in a housing estate. Oh De-soo, warped from his years of solitude, sets out to find his captors and his daughter, encountering a dog lover, very literal dog lover, a charitable beggar who gives him a phone and some cash, and a beautiful young chef named Mido, who swiftly becomes an ally. Mido and Oh De-soo, Ode to Sue, locate the restaurant who had provided the meals he had eaten or consumed over the last 15 years. And Oh De-soo follows the delivery driver to a hotel where people can essentially pay to have people locked up. The trail leading to a powerful businessman named Lee Woo-jin, who Oh De-soo used to go to school with. Oldboy would win the Grand Prix at the 2004 Cannes Film Festival, among many other awards, and is generally regarded as being one of the best revenge films ever made. Oldboy would serve as the second instalment of Park Chan-wook's Vengeance trilogy, including the likes of Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance from 2002 and Lady Vengeance from 2005. If you haven't seen either of those, they're brilliant.
I haven't.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to sort that out. There's another episode for you. This is one of my favourite films. There's a Greek tragi-comedy aspect to this film, echoing Oedipus the King. It's a visceral, grim, sadistic and labyrinthine descent into a personal hell.
Yes.
Wonderfully tinged with that sort of bittersweet ambiguity. Exploring themes of morality, guilt, revenge, violence, truth, memory, despair, power, wealth and sort of social class systems, imprisonment, innocence, forbidden love, loss, loyalty and corruption. Impeccably made, impeccably realised. Each frame counts, much like Chan-wook Park's other movies. Every frame counts and has an actual purpose. There's some meaning to it. And the story builds up beautifully well and has it delivers a lot of impact. I don't know whether or not you like the climax, because there is that ambiguity to it. When did you first see this film?
I saw this film probably about maybe 12, 13 years ago. You lent me the DVD of it.
Okay.
To see it.
So what do you think?
I have issue with both Oldboy films,
Right.
because I think that if they had put elements of the remake and elements of the original together, they would have actually had the best film.
Right, okay.
Because there's bits of the original that I really like, and there's bits of the remake I really like, and bits that I really don't like of each film.
But you don't like either movie, but there are elements of both.
But there's elements of both that I really like.
Such as?
Well, I suppose we can talk about the end.
Sure. You don't like the ambiguity?
I do like...
Which ending do you like?
I like the original ending.
Okay.
Of the original film.
I love that.
Yeah. The finale is both traumatic, brutal, unforgiving, and gives catharsis to Lee Woo-jin.
Yes.
And he's finally able to, to find peace with his sister's suicide in a way, because of how what he's done. What he's done to what he's done to De-soo. Yeah. It kind of gives him catharsis in the end.
Sure. I mean, yeah. Okay.
I think it was. I mean, it's a terribly sad film.
Oh God!
Yeah. I
there
mean,
is a glimmer though, because Mido gets swept into it, but
Yeah.
I suppose she's been played upon, though, isn't she? I suppose it's a grim ending for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how I feel about the hypnotising aspect of it. The hypnotism.
Okay. Why?
I thought it was a little bit silly. The hypnotism sort of
Right.
aspect of it.
Okay. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I just thought it was a bit.
There's the movie is based on an 8-book manga series.
Right, I didn't know that.
No, okay, fine.
Yeah.
I haven't read it, but I've read about it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a lot more. The film, both films, aren't really that manga series. They're sort of an loose adaptation, if you will.
Yeah.
But there is a lot more, as I'm led to believe, apparently anyway, that there is a lot more hypnotism. There's a lot more of that aspect within the actual books.
Okay.
There's a bit more of that in the actual remake, though, isn't there?
What? No, there's no hypnotism in the
Isn't
remake.
there? Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
Fine, yeah.
There was a lot of things that I did notice watching the two films because I watched them. I think I watched them in the same day. I watched. Yeah.
That's a depressing day.
Things I noticed that I hadn't noticed before, obviously comparing the films, was the angel wings.
Yeah.
He has angel wings instead of the Buddha rubber duck. In the remake, it's a Buddha rubber duck.
Yeah.
But in the remake, the angel wings turn up on an Oriental girl that is selling the rubber duck.
Yes,
So she's wearing the angel wings, which is a
okay.
nod, obviously, to the original.
previous, yeah.
There is a couple of nods that I noticed, but mind you, I'm not going to talk about the
No,
remake.
please. Yeah, we'll get
Because if not, I'm going to get them all mixed up.
Right.
I thought the suicidal man scene was with the dog was unnecessary.
Do you? Why?
Yeah, I just thought it was stupid, and some of the way that he acts in it, like Odesu acts kind of stupid, where he goes and sniffs the guy, and
He's been kept in solid. This is
I
the
know, but
first
I'm not
human
sure.
being
I'm not
he's seen
sure.
in
I'm not sure I would
15
do that.
years.
I'm not sure I would do that, especially like to a man that go up and sniff
This is the first human being
Yeah, I
he's
still
seen,
don't think I would.
physically seen in 15 years.
No, I still don't. I think I would be a bit more like Josh Brolin, where he was sniffing grass, like the elements of the world around you, rather than go up and sniff a flower or go up and sniff grass, and because you're now outside, rather than go up and sniff a man.
Sure, with great respect, I think it's impossible to say how you would respond. If you
Okay,
were
maybe. Well,
randomly
true.
released out of captivity.
I found Odesu eating the live squid was absolutely disgusting.
I think it kind of works.
I think it's horrible. I absolutely hate that bit.
Sure.
Obviously,
I think some of that is CG though.
Is it?
When he's got like his head on the plate,
Yeah.
and the thing is still. I think that's CG.
Oh, maybe.
The bit where he's actually tearing it to pieces in his mouth.
I think that's
the
real.
Mid shot, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's 100%.
I think that's yeah.
But do you know? I like that. Again, it's that kind of. I've been locked up. I'm warped, and I want to feel something. I want.
Yeah.
I've been away from life, and I'm going to just tear this up. Plus, he's angry. Sorry.
I mean, there's like his. I don't know who the sort of character. The character that owns the incarceration
the
place.
hotel.
The teeth.
Oh,
with
yeah.
The hammer
Yeah, yeah.
claw is.
So you don't like the visceral moments of violence?
I don't mind obviously the iconic brawl scene. I think is great.
The Royal Rumble with the hammer.
I think they're both great in both films because I've compared both scenes.
I think it's dramatically worse. I think he has shot it with no energy whatsoever, and the editing in the remake with that particular scene is dreadful.
Really?
Yeah. I think that
Well, comparing them, I found that I thought the remake was only slightly better, that scene.
I disagree, but that's fine.
I thought they were almost identical, really.
No, there's no energy. There's no the editing is horrible on that as well.
Okay. And
That's my opinion, of course.
yes. Obviously, like when I was watching it, I'd forgotten about the fact that the pacemaker thing was a lie. Because I thought that was a bit unrealistic. With I've got to, like some surgeon would put in a switch.
Right.
But obviously that was a ruse, wasn't it?
Indeed.
And I also thought that No Ju Han, sorry if I'm not
don't
pronouncing that right, being stabbed to death with that broken CD was really visceral and really dramatic and brutal.
It's a very physical film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I preferred that scene much more to when Chris from The Sopranos
Michael Curioli.
gets strangled, and he sort of sticks out his tongue and goes, "Ah," and he's
Sure.
like, that looks so stupid and so cheesy.
Indeed.
As I said, I mean, I think the ending is absolutely fantastic. That last 20 minutes, I think, is absolutely fantastic.
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
And I don't know why Spike Lee didn't go. I mean, Spike Lee, I remember him toting around on all like the late night, chat shows, saying to everybody, "I'm making a reinterpretation of Oldboy. I'm not making a reboot
No, he
or
didn't.
an American
No, he
remake."
didn't.
He made a remake.
It's a copy and paste remake.
Yes, he made a copy.
There's some bits
so
and
why
pieces
did he
changed.
not? Why did he not copy and paste the end?
I don't
which
know.
was great.
Yeah, the ending really well. The just on the ambiguity of the ending, it's perfect, and I love it. I love the little smile, that bittersweet, anguishing smile that he gives at the end. But apparently, the original manga differs. There's like it ends on a cliffhanger,
Right.
On a completely, and there's
I also thought that Lee Woo Jin was also a better villain than obviously
we'll
my
talk-
boy Shalto.
We'll talk about that when we talk about.
Shout out to South Africa.
Jesus, yeah.
You prawns.
What? Yeah. Okay. All
You know,
of us-
you cheeky prawns.
We do love our South African listeners.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think the villain is pure evil. I like that. Again, going into the social structure conflicts. So I think Odesu is one end of the social scale. Is this kind of salaryman? He's a worker, whereas Woo Jin is wealthy and ridiculously powerful. But he uses his wealth to sort of reset history in a way,
Right.
doesn't he? Because he's trying to reset the narrative in a way.
Yes. Yeah.
And both are ultimately swept up into this revenge plot. Woo Jin is able to do whatever he wants with his enormous resources.
Yes. Like Batman.
There's also a thing about ants, isn't there, in this?
There is. Yes.
So maybe that's the social structure thing. With worker ants, because there's ants in his arm. And
And there's that giant ant on the train, isn't
there? There's
there?
a weird ant on the subway.
Yeah.
I think I believe it's pronounced Wooji Tai is immense in that role. He's so calculated.
He's great.
So chilling. The performances in this film are superb.
Yeah.
Where I can't say that about the other one. I think Choi Min-sik as Odesu is breathtaking.
Yeah. I think his performance is great. And and as I said, I don't think it's I don't know why it is. I like the remake of Oldboy. I don't know why.
Well,
I'll tell you why. Because it is so spoofy in a way, and
I hate it. I genuinely. We'll get into that in a moment.
Okay.
We're perhaps getting into more of the remake, but I think because it's a copy and paste remake, it's not a reinterpretation of Spike Lee. Apparently, we'll get into that movie shortly, but because it is a copy and paste remake, I think you have to view the films side by side. Yeah, and the remake cannot stand up to this one at all. It's chalk and cheese. What do you think of like music and things like that? I appreciate the score, but I hate the score.
No, I didn't really like the music.
Okay, there was something that didn't. It's a bit over the top and a bit overly dramatic in my opinion. How do you feel about the look of it? Because it's got a stunningly meticulous look.
It's got a very stark look about it, hasn't it? Really,
But it's brilliant. Each frame has got something in it, and I like that.
maybe. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of this version, to be honest.
Fine.
It's not a bad film. Don't get me wrong. For me, it's not.
It's like again, social structure. I keep coming up to that, and the ants and all that kind of stuff. There's the captivity and imprisonment aspect of it, where they feed him and they groom him and they knock him out and they hypnotise him. But even when he does, I think I alluded to it when I was sort of sent up, like in the intro of this, like he kills him. He tries to kill himself, but he can't get. There's like no escape.
No, they won't let him die. No.
And there is that kind of weird voyeuristic aspect to it as well, because Odesu's been watched the whole time.
It's a version of punishment, isn't it?
It
so
is.
That's why he can't die, because he's to be punished.
Indeed. Yeah, the climax is brutal.
I think it's fantastic. I think it's a fantastic. I would have loved this climax to be in the remake.
He kind of pays for having a big mouth, right?
That is basically it.
Yeah.
That is basically it. But he cuts off his tongue because, you've got a big mouth and it was the reason, you saw me and my sister and you spread it around the school.
Right.
Because you're big mouth.
Right.
And you are really responsible for my sister's death.
Well, no, I mean, Wu Jin is responsible for all of this awful stuff.
Well, yes, he is.
He's a complete scumbag.
Yeah.
Oda Su kind of happens upon it, but obviously he didn't.
Yeah.
And it's a really complex little. Also, the imprisonment thing really kind of caught my attention, and the passage. I love how they chart the passage of time.
Yeah.
Those 15 years, because you see all of these moments in history.
And also the title makes sense because he says that, they're evergreen old boys.
Right.
So that makes sense why the film is called Oldboy.
Sure.
Where the remake makes no reference to the word old boy. So you're like, okay,
Sure.
And also I think that I just think
sorry, go on.
No, it's fine. I just think that there's so many bits that I don't know. That I like in this, I like in the original, that I don't like in the remake, and vice versa. You know what I mean?
Okay. Again, I this is one of the best revenge films.
And I also
ever
like
made, in my
that
opinion.
Odesu is he's not revealed to be a bad person or a jerk straight away.
Right.
So you sort of discover that, where in the remake it's quite obvious at the beginning.
Sure. Verdict.
Well, I don't know, maybe 2 stars. I gave it 2 stars on Letterboxd.
I would recommend the other films of the Vengeance trilogy. I think David Fincher's The Game would be a neat companion to this. If you've ever seen that,
maybe I have seen that. Yes.
I think Denis Villeneuve's. Encendies from 2010 is a really good companion with its themes of family revelations. It's big. Ring me bell, Michelle. We shall not be discussing the 2006 Bollywood remake, mainly because it's unavailable to stream at the moment.
What? There's a...
Yeah, I think it's called Vinga or Vinya or something like that. There was a
Oldboy.
There is another remake of this movie. There's a Bollywood remake of this movie.
Is it going to have dancing in?
Well, that's the thing. If it were available to stream, I don't know if it's a territorial. I would check it out. Okay. Yeah, again, we won't be discussing it. Neither of us have seen it. We can't really see it because it's unavailable to stream. I cannot find a DVD.
I don't want to see it.
I don't know if I want to drop. If there were a DVD available, which I presume there is, I don't know if I'd want to drop money on seeing it.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not a fan of Bollywood movies.
But also, it's an unofficial remake, whereas this is an official remake.
What I would have liked to seen is a Nollywood, a Nigerian version of Oldboy.
We're going to have to do a Nollywood episode at some
I quite
point.
enjoy some of those.
Okay.
They are quite amusing.
Just out of curiosity, what would you recommend?
I would definitely recommend Anaja Christmas. I'm sorry if I'm not saying that right. Anaja?
Okay.
Anaja Christmas?
Do they celebrate
yes, they do.
I don't know the culture. Genuinely.
They do. It's more geared towards the actual religious aspect rather than the sort of commercial aspect like we celebrate.
Is it like a Hallmark movie? One of those Hallmark
Not really.
Christmas?
It's just strange, really kind of odd, but very funny. Very funny, yeah.
I like a bit of comedy. Oldboy is a 2013 noir thriller directed by Spike Lee, written by Mark Protasevich. Again, I do apologise about pronunciations in this episode. Boasting a stellar cast, including the likes of Josh Brolin. It's a really impressive cast. Elizabeth Olsen,
my boy Shalto.
I nearly called him Charlton. Charlton Copley, Sam Jackson, Michael Imperioli, who I love, Pom Clementieff, Lance Reddick, and Rami Malek, among others. Copy and paste remake for the most part. So what we said about the plot of the original film, pretty much, mostly, is true of this. They do switch some minor aspects, such as moving the action to like New York and New York State, I suppose. Oda Su is now Joe Doucette, played by Josh Brolin. Mido is now Marie, played by Elizabeth Olsen, who is a healthcare worker, or is involved in healthcare.
Yeah, sort of volunteer healthcare worker for the needy.
She's not a chef; she's a healthcare guy, which is great. Wu Jin is now Adrian Price, played by Shalto, aka Charlton. I really did. The backstory of Price's upbringing and the shocking love affair is way more explored in this one, I would say.
Yeah.
A bit of backstory, if you will. Following the success of the original, the rights were, because I think it's interesting, the rights were snapped up by DreamWorks in 2008 with Will Smith to star.
Really?
Yeah, just picture this movie with Will and Steven actual Spielberg attached to direct.
Direct?
Smith's association with Mark Protasevich, having worked on I Am Legend, got him into writing the script. The project dissolved when Spielberg basically bailed. He wanted to adapt the original 8-book manga series. He didn't want to do what Spike Lee wound up doing. He wanted to adapt the manga and take it in a different direction. Spike Lee gets involved in 2011. Josh Brolin is cast. Brolin. What? While Christian Bale is offered the role of the villainous Price.
Oh, I would like that.
Wouldn't you?
Oh, wouldn't that have been much better? Oh.
He passed. Colin Firth passed. Clive Owen passed before Sharlto Copley got it. There is apparently a 104... I think the running time of the version that we saw is 104 minutes. There is a 140-minute director's cut out there.
Is there really?
The producers apparently, at least well and truly, cut the film to shreds. Lee and Brolin were furious, understandably, with the final result, to the point where Spike Lee removed his trademark Spike Lee joint.
I was going to mention this.
From the title.
I was going to mention that.
That said, as mentioned before, this is a copy and paste job from head to toe. I cannot imagine the 140-minute director's cut to be really any different or any better than what we've got. It's copy and paste. They shot what they shot, yeah?
Right.
So I can't imagine this 140-minute thing is any better than what we've got, because the film that we've got is what it is. Like, the performances are what they are. The action is what it is. The creative decisions they took with what we saw is what we got.
This doesn't feel like a Spike Lee film.
It really doesn't.
No. I've seen loads of Spike Lee films, and this,
honestly,
like you have.
Yeah, I think I've seen all of his.
Right.
I think I've seen all of his, certainly his feature films. I don't know if he's made documentaries and stuff. I greatly wish that they'd done the Smith-Spielberg. You would have thought that would just get made with their star power, with their clout.
I think it would have been a huge film if they had.
Go at it, lads. I presume they would have had to have toned it down, because when you've got two such commercial, powerful people, you'd probably have to restrain somewhere.
I think the incestuous nature of the piece would have had to been really toned down.
But to do something different, to allow Spielberg to adapt the 8-book manga series and do something, much like how they did something different with Suspiria, as we've discussed in the previous episode. With that in mind, this, oh my god, the tone of my voice is going to drop. This is essentially a copy and paste job. I don't know if there's a better way of saying that. You have to compare it to the original, and it is greatly inferior in virtually every...
Now, be kind.
Let me speak. In virtually every creative aspect, it adds absolutely nothing to the previous film, to the original. As a standalone film, I've got to be fair. You've got to be balanced to the whole thing. It's a fairly well-paced, twisting thriller. It's grim, it's moody, it's violent. The tonal shifts, I would say, are messy, swinging from moody melodrama to daft, darkly comedic comedy to staggering, searing moments of violence. Again, on balance, this may have something to do with the fact that the producers cut it to shreds. Yeah.
Now that I know that, because I didn't know that, that would explain a lot of what you've just said about how the twists and turns go so dramatic.
Yeah.
That would make a lot of sense.
Comparatively, I think the performances are satisfactory. Brolin is okay. Olsen is wasted, in my opinion. I think she's a way better actress.
She's
than
quite
what she's
forgettable,
getting
isn't she?
Sam Jackson is Sam Jackson, in my opinion. You know what you're going to get from Sam Jackson.
Wonderful.
Okay, and I have absolutely no idea what Sharlto Copley was aiming for. It's so over the top and cartoonish and embarrassing. Where Wu Ji-tai, again, I apologise for the...
He was fantastic, villain.
his Wu Jin is so chilling and so controlled and so mannered. Sharlto, it's such an inconsistent performance. But it just seems as though it's like, I've got this in my mind and I'm going to perform this. Yeah?
Yeah, do you know what it reminds me
it's so
of?
inconsistent.
You know, you told me that story about how Nicolas Cage was going to be in The Green Hornet and he wanted to do a Jamaican accent.
Something
so he
like
had,
that.
so he had an idea of what he wanted to do as the villain, and they said, no, we don't.
He came in with an idea,
right?
And he's like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And they were like, nah, bruv.
No, I think that's what Sharlto Copley had. He's like, I'm going to come in and I'm going to be a moustache twirling villain.
Yeah.
And I'm going to come in and I'm going to have a silly voice.
Yeah.
And
I think you're giving him too much credit.
No, you don't think he... Do you think they said that to him?
I think
or do you think he had...
Honestly, I think he's just going by his own momentum. I don't think... There's no consistency in there's consistency in that stupid voice that he puts on, but there's no consistency.
But who sort of came up with the idea of him being a bit of a ponce?
I
I mean, I don't mean to be unkind, but...
A ponce and a nonce.
A bit of a sissy, you know what I mean?
I get. You'd have to ask Sharlto Copley, and you'd have to get involved with something.
Especially as he doesn't really. If you think about Sharlto Copley films,
talk way more about this inferior remake.
Yes, we are.
Than we are about.
If you think about Sharlto,
how great that first 2003 film
think
is.
About Sharlto Copley films that he's been in. Right?
He's a decent actor.
He's a decent actor, and he's never usually a bit of a weak ass, is he?
What do you mean?
Well, you know, he's not like, oh, I'm airy, I'm fairy, you know.
I don't know. I mean,
think about how tough he is in...
he starts off very weak
in Elysium.
He starts off very weak in District 9, doesn't he? As like an office worker.
Yeah.
Wherever it is, a bureaucrat of some sort, right? But he becomes an entirely different
And what
entity
about how he is in Elysium?
Sure, yeah. He's quite brutal in that as well.
He's this brutal, buffed up soldier.
He plays Howling Mad Murdoch really well in the A-Team movie.
Right, I've not seen that though.
Oh, we should do an episode on that then. Sharlto Copley double bill. I think the shots are drab. I think I've alluded to that already. Whereas Chang-wook Park is so methodical and so precise. Each frame has a point and a purpose, and a purpose. It's always conveying something that drives the narrative, and the audience can read it, I feel. Whereas here it feels just like shots. There's no...
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, in some instances, they're very stylish, but they're just shots.
Yeah.
And Oda Su's mental state can be reflected in that weird barnet he's got. His haircut, right?
Yes, that...
He's completely lost his mind, and his little that beautiful barnet that he has is... kind of
because
reflects
his hairstyle changes, doesn't it?
It does change.
Yeah.
Whereas, Brolin doesn't really go for that.
No.
And he just has a shaven head, doesn't he? He has a shaven head right from the off. Yeah, he does have a shaven head.
He has a shaven head when he comes out. Yeah,
sure.
But I mean, at the beginning he hasn't. He's just got sort of short hair.
But he's a blank slate, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what that represents?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
Not this. Whatever's going through the mind of Oda Su.
I did notice Oda Su in one scene. You know where he first comes out and he's taken home.
Yeah.
He grabs He grabs like some of his stuff that he's got off of what's her name?
Sure.
I can't remember what her name is. You know who's his daughter in it?
It's Mido.
Yeah, Mido. And he climbs back into bed, and as he climbs back into bed, he bangs his head on the table. And I keep thinking to myself, he did that that wasn't on purpose. The actor probably did actually bang his head as he sort of awkwardly got back in.
Sure.
And I thought that was really good, because I thought that's...
Yeah, there's way much... I forget his name. I forget the actor's name. The guy who played Oda Su, with great respect. I'd probably butcher his name anyway if I were to try and pronounce it. I don't think Josh Brolin really put it... he didn't. He didn't really put anything into this role other than, I'm Josh Brolin.
Okay.
And it's disappointing. He's fine because he gets to be Action Man, and he can do Action Man. He's a really good actor.
He is.
He's a really good actor.
He is.
And he's just not really. He doesn't really turn up, in my opinion, in this film. He's fine, and he gets to do his little Action Man stuff, but it's so forgettable.
So would you say, and I hate to use this pun, that Spike Lee's Oldboy has the basic story of the original, but none of the soul of the Park Chan-wook original?
That's why the listeners tune in, isn't it?
Yeah, right, baby.
There you are. I do apologise, listeners.
I actually do like Josh Brolin's performance in this.
Why?
Because he's such a douche.
Yeah.
He really is
I mean,
such a
to be
douche. And
fair,
I kind of like his
he's
performance
gone
because
through
it's
hell.
comical. It's sort of comical, especially the beginning bit.
There's comical
where he's
aspects
drunk.
to Odyssey.
The thing is, from the beginning, you find out that Joe Doucette is a sleaze, a drunk, a womanizer.
He's like a advertising guy,
yeah,
right?
and an all-round a-hole.
Yeah, he's a scumbag.
Whereas Odesu's traits aren't as obvious in the beginning.
No, he's a salaryman, and he's in for public drunkenness.
Yes, yeah. And the thing is, with Josh Brolin's performance, he actually is an alcoholic in it. Because Odesu, you don't see him drink the whole time he's incarcerated in the original.
With great respect, chances are if you've been locked up for public drug, you're stuck in the drunk tank, you're sort of chained to the wall as he is. Chances are you drink.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But obviously,
what was with
really...
the like 30 seconds of Oscar winner Remy Malek?
You got a few Oscar winners in this.
Yeah, there was a lot of callbacks I noticed though. Like I mentioned about the Angel Wings.
Yes,
that was his daughter in the original. Was his daughter's present. Yeah. There was also a nod to the Count of Monte Cristo.
Yes,
again in
sure.
both films.
Yeah, that's true.
And the tongue in the box. Also a nod to the fact that Odesu cuts his tongue off, and Chris from The Sopranos gets his.
Michael Imperioli.
Yeah.
I love Chris from The Sopranos. I love The Sopranos. So it was a joy. It's always a joy when you see Michael Imperioli.
I mean that scene when he gets killed is just so hilarious.
Christopher.
When Sheldon comes in, you called my sister a whore. Oh, and he comes and he starts strangling, and he goes like, and his tongue's hanging out. And,
sure. Sharlto Copley.
Yes.
Stealing a living. How do you feel about the ending and the climax to this film in relation to the other one?
Not as
you have to put the two side by side. It's a copy and paste remake.
Yeah.
You have to do it.
No ways is it good. No way.
Adrian dies, much like Woo Jin dies.
Yeah. I think the way that Adrian dies is a lot. Well, like when he says, "What is it? Heaven rid me of this" or something. Sure. The rest is silence. I quite like what he says there before he offs himself.
Fine.
But
adds nothing.
It doesn't, and
he leaves Maria a note, doesn't he?
Yeah. And also the other thing I found odd is all these things with the cameras. Like he had cameras everywhere. Like he was able to see.
It's a bit.
I don't know where they were staying when they go into the school and it all unravels.
Yeah.
I don't know where him and where Joe and Maria are staying, where they make love.
They're in like a weird off
little cabin thing?
Cabin-y thing,
right?
Like hotel.
Yeah, but Adrian Price has got a camera in there.
Yeah.
And he's like watching it in his penthouse.
Yeah.
With her from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Pom Clementieff, yeah.
Yes, I quite liked her in that. I quite liked her in that.
There's a thing about diamonds as well, where he gives Cheney some diamonds.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. There is some ambiguity there.
Right.
But
I just don't know how Adrian Price can see Joe Doucette everywhere.
Yes.
It just seems a little bit like odd, and then he like at the end when he's revealing it, all these bits sort of appear on the window.
Yeah.
As if they're being projected from somewhere, and you don't know who's projecting them or what's going on, and it just seems over the top, elaborate, and stupid.
Yeah. My hand has completely gone to sleep, so I'm in agony.
Oh, you're okay there. This film has caused you actual physical pain.
Speaking of which,
yes.
I watched this last Sunday morning, ahead of this recording.
Yeah.
Because we're recording on a Saturday, ladies and gentlemen. It got to the point, and I think it was where Joe was torturing Cheney for information.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It got to that point. It's about midway through, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he says something about getting paid for imprisoning him, where I was getting annoyed with the way Joe was speaking. With the tone of tone of Josh Brolin's voice.
Okay.
It was just annoying me. And I was just thinking, like, I could watch this film with mute on and the subs on.
Right.
And I nearly did.
So did you want to say to Josh Brolin, tone it down?
I was just, I love Josh Brolin. I was so annoyed with the way, just the way he was speaking. Okay. It was just so bothersome to me. So yeah, it was a nice little anecdote.
I wouldn't.
The tone of his voice just got to me, and I was like, I'm going to put this on mute and just watch it with subs.
It wouldn't worry me if you were saying that about obviously Sharlto Copley, because his accent and his voice was true. And do you know the other thing I didn't like? I didn't like the way he touched everything in it, where he had like these long nails and he like picked everything up as if it was like really sort of delicate. Like everything he picked up was. It's sort of, I don't know, it was weird with his fingertips. Yeah,
he's just a scumbag in general, though, isn't he? It all sort of emanates from his father and his father's influence.
Yeah, it's just...
we won't go into that because we want to keep it
we don't
PC,
really want to talk. I think I would have preferred it if they'd kept it to the brother-sister incest theme rather than bringing the father into it. And
so in both films, Joe in this instance, Odyssey in the previous one, sort of happens to reveal the fact that Woo Jin and Adrian Price respectively have been sleeping with their sister, their sister, and there is a sort of horrific incestuous thing going on. But in this one, there is more of a father.
It's more to the father, not the sister.
In the remake, there's more to the father, and they do expand. I get it.
And I don't understand I don't understand the alcoholic angle of Joe Doucette either, because like even when they go back in time when he was at college, that he was a drunk then as well, because there's the scene where he's teasing his Adrian Price's sister, Amanda I think it is,
something like that.
He turns around and he goes, "Oh, I'm drunk,"
right?
And it's like, and he's got like a bottle of booze in his hand. So it's like, what is the relevance of being an alcoholic?
Again, this might be something to do with the fact that this was cut to ribbons. There might be some bits and pieces that the producers thought, this is boring.
I think what we really need to do is get the legend Spike Lee on the show. We need to.
He's at the house right now.
Yeah, we need to fly him over to Norwich.
I'll just
in the UK,
the east of England.
Yes, and come over to my house, Spike.
Right.
And my wife will cook you a lovely meal.
To be fair, your wife's cooking is ridiculously
I think he would be pleased with it.
He'd be like, I'm not leaving.
He'd be sitting there and he'd be going like, I had no idea this meal was vegan.
Yeah. He looks like a tiny man though, doesn't he? So I don't know
He's a little man.
How much he can put away.
I probably think a lot, I would think.
Do you reckon he'd go for seconds?
Yeah.
If you listen, Spike,
you can put a lot away, and you're a very slender man.
Thank you. I starve myself before I know that I'm coming here for dinner, because I know I'm going to be beautifully fed, and your wife's wonderful in every way.
I would really love to hear I would love to have a documentary. Documentary with Spike Lee talking about this film and what they actually did.
Is there not like a director's commentary on the Blu-ray or anything?
There possibly is, I don't know. But would he be allowed to actually talk about it?
Well, because his mouth would run off and say, I got it, I hate this film, they took my film away from me.
Yeah.
But even so, like, they shot what they shot. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't see how this would be improved.
Do you know something? I actually would have liked Spike Lee to make this like a Spike Lee film and actually get black actors. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
could have got Denzel. Could have got Denzel.
Yeah, I don't know if Denzel would be... I mean, if you had Will Smith and Steven Spielberg, why not just get...
Yeah, but I'm not a huge fan of Will Smith.
Why not?
I'm just not. Yeah, he's another comedy character, isn't he?
I think he's a really good actor. He won an Oscar last year, if you don't remember.
I know he did. He slapped Chris Rock, didn't he?
Do you think they'll make... Because the Oscars are about...
Do you think they'll make a film of him slapping Chris Rock? Like a 2-hour...
The 2023 Oscars, we're shooting with... What's today? The 5th? The 4th?
Yes.
Of February. So they're coming like this month, aren't they? Do you think they'll make... some sort of reference to the fact they'll get Chris Rock on stage?
You know what they'll probably do?
They'll probably do a thing about it.
Yeah, they'll probably do like a spoofy thing where they have one of the actors come up and pretend to slap another. You know,
I hate that.
Maybe
I really
don't know.
don't want to see that. Honestly, in a dream world, and if they were a little bit older, Michael B. Jordan and Daniel Kaluuya as
Daniel Kaluuya would be the villain.
So chilling with that.
He would be chilling. He would look so bored, wouldn't he?
Disinterested, bored look that he can.
He is a fantastic actor.
I loved it. I just watched Nope again for the 50th time.
Have you seen him in? Is it Queen and Slim?
I haven't seen that. I've wanted to.
No, he's good in that.
I did see. Is it Judas and the Black Messiah?
Oh, that's fantastic.
Brilliant.
Oh, it's got my boy Lakeith in it as well.
I mean, just watched Nope the other day, which I think is a really good film, and we are going to be doing an episode of that coming up. Keke Palmer, who I think is staggeringly gorgeous.
I don't think I've ever seen her in anything else. Have
well,
I seen her in anything else?
I don't know what you've seen, but Keke Palmer is maybe Marie,
Yeah.
and you've got...
Yes.
That would be so good.
'Cause she's full of energy, isn't she?
Oh, she's got...
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about this? What's your verdict?
Well, as I said, I personally like this film,
Why?
but I like it because it is.
You like aspects of both, right?
Yeah, I like aspects of both, but I prefer this version because it is kind of crap. And I. That's it. Being blunt, it is kind of crap, and
Sure.
and I get a kick out of watching certain crap films.
Yeah.
And
Oh, we all do.
yeah.
Yeah, as a standalone film, it's an okay, violent thriller.
Yeah.
As a remake, a literal copy and paste remake, it adds absolutely nothing.
And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't speak about Samuel L. Jackson's little mohawk.
Go on.
Well, his wonderful little mohawk. That it's blonde in one scene, and then I think it's black in another scene. His little mohawk.
It's weird because we all know that Sam Jackson is a bald man.
Yes.
So this would
and he
have been
dresses so well in this film as well. He's in one scene
He's a
where
beautiful
he's
man.
got like
and he
this
dresses
sort of,
exquisitely.
I don't know what it is, but it's like it's almost like a dress, like a man's dress thing he's wearing.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? He's like wearing pants and a dress thing
A
over
mess.
it. Is it what it is? It a mess? I don't know.
A man's dress.
A bit
is
like
mess.
how Darth Maul looked, where Darth Maul was sort of wearing that dress, but he had like.
Yeah.
But Samuel Jackson's outfit obviously was so much more fashionable.
Like a Scotsman and his kelp.
Yeah, he looked fantastic, and I shout out to Sam Jackson if he's got to be in any.
Again, I know he listens.
any Spike Lee.
Shout out. I know he's a listener. I know he's at the house right now. I'll just give him a call.
I'm inviting him over.
Didn't you invite Andy Peters over
I
once?
did invite Andy Peters over for New Year's Eve.
Andy Peters is a British television presenter.
Yes,
But
he is.
If you grew up in the 90s, he was on kids' TV.
He was.
On,
He was
Live and Kicking. And,
yes, he was a
so
children's.
Now he's
really muscular. He's really into fitness.
He hasn't aged, but he's on QVC.
He is on
correct?
QVC.
He's one
yes,
of the presenters
the
on
Home
that.
Shopping Network.
I think he's also one of the presenters on Good Morning Britain as well, isn't he?
Is he really?
Something
I don't
like that,
know.
yeah.
I do love him. I
Good
think
for
he's
you,
fantastic.
Andy Peters. But you anyway. You invited him over to your house once.
I did, and he politely declined.
He actually responded.
He actually responded, which I props to Andy Peters if you're listening. You're not listening. But
I know he's a listener. He's at the house right now. I'll just give him a call. Join us again when we'll be discussing a dull sci-fi adventure named Barbarella from 1968.
Yes, we will.
And-
And oh man, it's The Omen.
Oh man! From 1976. I was John. He was
Jason.
You can find me on Letterboxd as Rat Bastard.
Hello everybody, I'm Kerja Relon. Kerja underscore Relon, that's KERJA underscore RELON. There you go. That's where you can find me.
Find all the great reviews. On
Yes,
there.
my reviews are very cruel, my wife has told me.
Really?
Yeah, some of my reviews
Mine
are a
are.
bit cruel. Huh?
Mine are.
Yeah, your reviews are always cruel. I'll tell you what, any film that you watch,
I give it a
that I
5.
watch that I give 5 stars, you're definitely going to give it 3.
Yeah,
You're going to give it 2 stars lower or
I've
1
had that before.
star lower.
I've given 5-star reviews and then just slated I've given it 5 stars, but then slated the film in the
Yes,
review.
I know.
I've given
I haven't forgiven you for I haven't forgiven
Rise of
you
Skywalker?
for the Rise of Skywalker. No,
Yeah. Well, I gave it 5 stars.
you gave it 5 stars, and then you went back and went, "Well, it wasn't a 5-star movie.
'Cause
It was
it's-
the excitement of Star Wars."
Yeah.
I was rolled up in that
Yeah,
excitement.
that's why you have to rewatch films.
There was you at the cinema and your family. and
I had a great time. I was
roll-
with you and your family. It was great.
It wasn't just that though. Let's be honest, it was because it was a fantastic film.
No.
Even though it was flawed and it was a complete mess
If
because
it's
of
flaw-
you,
if
Rhiann
it's-
Johnson. I hope you're listening.
He's a listener. We know he's listening.
Rhiann Johnson.
He's at the house right now.
You messed that
give him a
film up
call.
and then JJ had to go and clean it up.
You can't say it's a mess and then say it's a good film. You realise that. You know the two are contradictory.
I'll tell you what, we need a podcast for me just to talk about that fiend. That I tell you what, he's got a punchable face, Rhiann Johnson.
Oh, that's a bit
A
mean.
punchable face. I showed my mum that picture and she said, yes, he does have a punchable face.
Knives Out was good though, wasn't it?
It was a very good film. So maybe it would be a light tap.
Indeed.
Because I enjoyed that film.
I remember giving a 2-star review to Open Water. A film called Open Water where these people are like adrift.
Yes, I've seen that.
I gave it like 2 stars, but I gave it a glowing review. And this person was like, "Did you even?" I got like a random comment saying like, "Sounds like you actually liked the film."
Well, your review of Plane was a 2-star review, but it was.
No,
excuse me. It was a. Yeah, you loved it.
It was great. We had a really good time. It's a terrible film, but it's just fun.
Right.
As always, thank you very much for listening. We greatly appreciate your time. Okay, love you. Goodbye.
Bye. Love you, boy.
Roll me hair like a bear.